The observation deck of Xenobiology Station Kepler-7 hummed with its usual morning rhythm. Through the reinforced glass, Clara Wynne watched the feeding bay where 6 apex predator cubs from the planet Vexthor wrestled and tumbled in the artificial dawnlight. Their species, the Vexkai, had nearly gone extinct after a solar flare destroyed their world's atmosphere. These cubs represented the last hope of an entire civilization. Clara pressed her palm against the glass. The smallest cub, designated Subject 6 but whom she'd secretly named Rin, sat apart from the others. His silver-streaked fur looked dull compared to his siblings' lustrous coats. While the other cubs devoured their nutrient paste with savage enthusiasm, Rin simply stared at his bowl. "He's not eating again," Dr. Vosh, the Centaurian station director, observed through his translator implant. His 3 eyes blinked in sequential worry. "We may need to consider forced feeding protocols." Clara's jaw tightened. "Give me 5 more minutes." She'd been the junior xenobiologist on this assignment for 3 months, and every regulation in the manual forbade what she was about to do. But watching Rin waste away while following every protocol felt like a greater violation. Without waiting for approval, Clara grabbed her breakfast, a protein bar and some dried fruit, and headed for the airlock. Dr. Vosh's protests faded behind the hiss of pressurizing doors. The feeding bay smelled of ozone and something wild that no human had words for. The moment Clara entered, 5 sets of crystalline eyes locked onto her. The cubs were each the size of a full-grown wolf, with retractable claws that could slice through steel and teeth designed to crush bone. They were magnificent and terrifying, but Rin's eyes held something different: recognition, hope. Clara lowered herself to the ground slowly, sitting cross-legged near Rin's untouched bowl. The other cubs maintained their distance, uncertain about this breach in routine. Clara unwrapped her protein bar and took a deliberate bite, chewing slowly. "I know the paste doesn't look appetizing," she said softly, knowing Rin couldn't understand her words but might grasp her tone. "But you need to eat, little one." Rin's ears twitched. He took one cautious step toward her. Clara broke off a piece of her dried fruit and placed it on the ground between them. Every xenobiology manual screamed warnings about cross-contamination, dietary incompatibility, and behavioral conditioning. She ignored them all. Rin approached with delicate steps, his nose working to process this strange new scent. He sniffed the fruit, then looked up at Clara with those impossibly intelligent eyes. Then, surprising her completely, he turned to his bowl of nutrient paste and took a small bite. Clara's breath caught. She took another bite of her protein bar. Rin took another bite of paste. They ate together in companionable silence, surrounded by the chaos of his siblings' feeding frenzy. When Clara finished her simple breakfast, Rin had consumed half his portion, more than he'd eaten in days. "Well," Dr. Vosh's voice crackled over the intercom, "that was highly irregular. Miss Wynne, it was also effective. Perhaps there's something to this human intuition after all." The next morning, Clara returned to the feeding bay with her breakfast. This time all 6 cubs waited at the entrance. But Rin sat closest, his tail curled around his paws, eyes fixed on the airlock door. The routine became sacred. Every morning at 700 hours, Clara would enter with her meal. She'd sit, eat her simple human food, and the cubs would eat their carefully calibrated nutrition. Rin always sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth, far enough to maintain his dignity. Within 2 weeks, Rin's coat regained its sheen. His weight normalized. But more remarkably, his siblings began mirroring the behavior. They would wait for Clara's arrival before approaching their bowls, watching this strange ritual between the smallest of their pack and the human. Dr. Vosh documented everything with scientific fascination. "The Vexkai are communal feeders," he explained during one staff meeting. "In their natural habitat, they would eat together as a family unit." The cubs were responding to isolation stress. Miss Wynne's presence provided the social context they needed. But Clara knew it was more than that. She'd seen the way Rin watched her, not with the simple conditioning of an animal, but with genuine connection. Humans weren't the only species that needed companionship with their meals. Months passed. The cubs grew larger, stronger, more confident. Specialists from across the galaxy arrived to study them, to prepare them for eventual reintroduction to their restored homeworld. But every morning, without fail, 6 pairs of eyes would turn to that airlock, waiting. On Clara's last day before transfer to another station, she sat in the feeding bay one final time. Rin, now nearly twice his original size, pressed against her side with a rumbling purr that rattled her bones. His siblings formed a protective circle around them both. She'd brought something special, real fruit, cleared through weeks of nutritional analysis. She placed pieces before each cub. They waited, watching her. Clara took a bite of her own fruit. Together they ate. "You know," she whispered to Rin, scratching behind his ear where the silver streak ran deepest, "I'm going to miss this. Miss you." Rin's response was to rest his massive head on her knee, his way of saying he understood. Later, as Clara's transport lifted off from Kepler-7, she received a transmission. The video showed all 6 cubs sitting in the feeding bay, their bowls untouched, staring at the airlock door, waiting. Dr. Vosh's message was brief. "We've assigned a permanent human caretaker to share morning meals with them. Your protocols will continue. Congratulations, Miss Wynne. You've taught us that sometimes the most advanced technology is simple presence." Clara smiled through tears, watching her station shrink among the stars. She'd come to Kepler-7 as a junior scientist following procedures. She left having learned what the galaxy's most sophisticated minds sometimes forgot, that breaking bread together, regardless of species, was the oldest and most powerful bond in the universe. And somewhere on that station, a small silver-streaked cub taught his family that meals weren't just about sustenance. They were about waiting for the ones you loved to arrive before you began.